Welcome, everybody, to the 77th episode of the Jewish Drinking Show. I'm your host, Rabbi Drew Kaplan, and I'm excited to welcome first-time guest to the show, Josh Mann. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Rabbi Drew. Glad to be here.
My pleasure. So, for those less familiar with Josh here, he is a 35-year-old former New Yorker living just outside of Boston with his wife, Jenny, as well as their daughter, Noah, and also their dog, Kugel, who apparently is Insta famous with his Yiddish Pup Instagram account. And then Josh here is also, amongst all those different things, is the past co-chair of the Beyond Bubby's Kitchen Food Festival in Boston and a member of the Jewish Arts Collaborative's Food Think Tank. So that sounds very neat. On top of all of those things, and of course more relevant to our purposes, he also created Jews and Booze, which I will point out is a Facebook group, amongst other things, but as he describes it, is a community of Jewish people and friends who share a love of fine spirits, tzedakah, and lighthearted shtick. So I'm very curious, and hopefully our listeners are as well, about this whole Jews and Booze thing. So just as a background for everybody, I came across Jews and Booze. I saw it on Instagram. It's an Instagram account, and then it pointed me to a Facebook group, which I joined. Some people I recognized in there, and so Josh, what is this Facebook group?
It's kind of funny that you found it through the Instagram because there really isn't much on Instagram. That was kind of just, people kept telling me you have to throw stuff up on Instagram. You have to. So that's why I threw a few things up, but I guess it worked.
It worked for me.
Right. But yeah, so we started this this Jews and Booze group. Basically, I became really involved, as you could see behind me, in like the whiskey community, especially in collecting, and I saw that it was just a really friendly, welcoming community where just a lot of great people were involved, and I became very friendly with people. And one of the things I kept noticing was that there was a whole lot of Goldbergs and Cohens and all the other Jewish names you could think of in these groups, which quite frankly was kind of surprising because I picture bourbon to be like all these like people out in Kentucky with like moonshining and that kind of thing. But it was really kind of nice to see all these names, and it felt sort of like I mean, there was never any discussion about anything even remotely Jewish, but there still felt like there was some familiarity.
Yeah. So those are just various bourbon or whiskey groups you're saying on Facebook that just
yeah.
Just
there's
a surprising amount of Jews you're saying within these different bourbon groups.
A shocking amount, yeah.
Shocking amount. I do have to point out Josh mentioned behind him. So for those podcast listeners behind him, let me briefly describe what's behind him. First of all, on the wall is a huge wooden Jews and Booze. So he's got the logo behind him, but on this table behind him, he's got a few dozen, 3, 4, maybe 5 dozen different bottles, as well as a lovely table arrayed in front of him with another dozen bottles, as well as a lovely taster paddle, as it were. So he's definitely got quite the setup there. I'm envious of it. So, all right. So you were in these different Facebook bourbon groups and a lot of Jews. So how did you come about, and when did you start this Jews and Booze Facebook group?
It started, I would say, a couple of weeks before Hanukkah, this past Hanukkah. I thought it would be a cool thing to do something Hanukkah related having to do with whiskey. And so I created a group thinking that, I'll get like maybe like, I don't know, a dozen, 2 dozen, maybe people to join, and we could like swap samples and sort of kibitz and talk about all the whiskey stuff, but then also like a lot of the kind of shticky Jewish geography, all that conversation that normally goes on amongst family, let's say.
So you started only basically 6-7 months ago then. So it's barely a touch over a half year that you created this Facebook group, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. So I want to get back more into the Facebook group at a later point in our conversation. But before we do, there's whiskeys involved, correct? Not just talking about them, but there's Jews and Booze whiskeys, right?
Yeah. One of the cool things about a lot of these groups that I became involved with, that I sort of that's sort of what this Jews and Booze group morphed into, was doing a lot of barrel picks. And
Mhm.
so what a barrel pick is all of these distilleries have hundreds and sometimes even thousands of barrels that are just sitting in warehouses, just aging. In fact, I think I heard somewhere that Kentucky has more barrels aging than they do actual like residents of Kentucky. So yeah, there's just thousands of these barrels, and now a big thing now is a lot of these whiskey groups have popped up. And usually, what happens is that somebody who has a particular palate that people like will pick a barrel, or maybe a group of people will pick a barrel, and then they'll buy that barrel for their on behalf of their group and make it available exclusively for their group.
Oh, cool.
Um, and really what these barrel picks are is, you know, I know it sort of started as like a little sticker saying picked by so and so, but it's morphed into these elaborate designs and beautiful stickers and colorful labels and waxing and this and that. But really, ultimately, what it is a seal of approval. When
Mm.
you see Jews and Booze on a bottle of whiskey, you know you're getting an extremely high quality bottle of whiskey that is delicious and has been vetted by the best.
Okay, so before we get into that whole process, I have in front of me 5 different, um, I guess, choices or picks we could say from Jews and Booze, right? So we have a rum, we have a rye, and 3 bourbons. So we've got 5 from, and how many total have come out of this group?
So far we've released as of right now we've released 6 barrels, but in by the end of the year I would say we're probably going to be around between 20 and 25.
Wow. And that people would find out more about that through the Facebook group, or how would
Yep,
they find out?
Jews and Booze
Or
on
just
Facebook.
email you, I guess.
Yeah, probably Jews and Booze on Facebook is the best way to get to us.
That definitely sounds the easiest way.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a lot of things to talk about. But first, let's start tasting. So
Awesome.
should we start with the rum?
Yeah, let's start with the rum. So let me just tell you a little bit about this rum.
Which
Uh,
for those who are looking at this on YouTube, this is currently poured in a Jews and Booze label, or not really label. It's etched in, right?
yeah, etched in.
Etched in. Okay, so it's very,
That's
so
how you know
people
it's
can also
good.
get glassware that are branded Jews and Booze.
Yeah, we're doing all kinds of fun stuff for the group.
That's great.
It's been a blast.
And I think very relevantly and very significantly to people, this is kosher for Passover rum.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I don't know, for a long time, Passover was just drinking Manischewitz or whatever else there was, and there never really was any like good options. Definitely not once I got into whiskey.
Yeah.
So I purposely sought this out, and actually that it's really cool. This particular barrel it's the first ever release of a single barrel of kosher for Passover rum in the world. First
Really?
ever. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Uh,
World history. All right. That's
yeah.
exciting.
Another group also did a kosher for Passover rum, which was excellent also.
Hmm.
But theirs was a 2 barrel blend.
Hmm.
So our Jews and Booze barrel was the only one in the world ever that is a single barrel, and it came out delicious.
That's exciting.
And it was actually I don't know if you know the movie Robin Hood Men in Tights,
It's been
classic.
a while, but it's a classic.
Yeah, so we actually we named this barrel Sacramental Rum
Hmm.
as a tribute to Rabbi Tuckman, who is Mel Brooks's character in the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me know what
Uh,
you think.
cool. Well, l'chaim.
Fine.
L'chaim.
One of the things I really liked about this rum was that it had like a very whiskey kind of taste to it. It wasn't very rummy.
Uh-huh. Interesting. What I get, the most noticeable thing for me, plums. It's like very like dark fruity plummy,
Hmm.
which is kind of neat.
Oh.
I could be off, but that's sort of what I'm getting at the moment. It also, as a bit of a criticism, it feels like it could use some more aging. Like it's a bit, it's definitely sharp. Feels like it could can mellow out some.
Yeah, it's definitely young. It was only 2 years, 1 month in the barrel, so it's definitely a young one.
Yeah.
Um, it's also low proof. It's only at 80 proof. Definitely, it's going to be by far the lowest proof thing we're going to taste today. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to work with them in the future. This company is out in Chicago, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
was their first release ever under this label, the Dead Drop label.
Oh, cool.
Every one of their offerings actually is kosher, which is really cool.
Oh, that's really neat.
Definitely, they have an amazing tasting room. If anybody's out in Chicago, go visit them. Really great place.
Oh, wow.
Ari is the master distiller there, and he's just phenomenal.
Oh, that's really cool. So, yeah, I mean, it tastes good. It just could use some chilling out. This is my own personal criticism, but aside from that, like especially to expand kosher for Passover spirit options, this is a nice choice. It's funny because when I think of kosher for Passover and the plumminess, it kind of reminds me of Slivovitz a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely think over the next year or two, you're going to see some big things out of them.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
I will actually, one other thing, a big thing for me, I love mouthfeel. And so this one actually has a fairly smooth mouthfeel, especially for, as light as it is of a rum.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Basically, the two biggest things that I use to sort of, or factors that I determine what barrels I like, because the end of the day, there's a ton of great tasting whiskey out there and rum and everything else. It all tastes good, but what separates it, in my opinion, what separates something that I want to pick for Juice and Booze versus something that I'll pass on, comes down to two things really, and that's mouthfeel and finish.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. First of all, I've been a big mouthfeel person for years, but it's funny because I'm not necessarily trying to push us, but the Bear Jew that you've got coming up, that I really appreciate the finish on.
Yeah. Should we go to that one next?
We can definitely. That was not intended to be a segue, but I'm going to ride that. So we have, so this is a straight rye, and it's 113.64 proof. It's almost 8 years old.
Yeah, this one's special. This was we named this one the Bear Jew. This was obviously in honor of
the movie,
the Bear Jew in the movie
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious Bastards, yeah. Great movie, and this one was a pretty special pick, I would say. The nose is just phenomenal.
It's kind of soft, actually.
I love it.
There's a soft, almost sweet, semi-sweetness to it.
Yeah. This one, it's funny. This one drinks much more like a bourbon, I feel, because of that sweetness.
Like a soft sweetness. Anyways, I'm trying to figure out what the notes are, but
I'm terrible at notes. But I'll tell you a little bit about this one. This one was bottled.
It is spicy on the palate.
Oh yeah. So this is an MGP rye. It was bottled by Barrel. 7 years, 11 months in a barrel. And by the way, I wanted to mention one of the cool things that we do. Obviously, a big part of this is community and having fun, but also one of the most important things for me was tzedakah and giving back. So every single barrel that we do, we pick a different charity to donate proceeds to.
Oh, cool.
So just so you know, total since January, we've raised $7,560 for tzedakah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's been really, really fun. On this, so the last barrel, that was the rum barrel. We raised it for an organization called Ability Beyond, and what they do is they actually help place individuals with disabilities in employment and different opportunities. And it's an amazing organization. So that was really, really wonderful to be able to help contribute to them. And the Bear Jew, we donated to the ALS Association.
Oh, nice.
Another great organization.
Oh, cool. Cool. So one other thing. So this is we also have 3 bourbons coming. We have a trio of bourbons, but this is the lightest in proof, going forward. So are your bourbons ryes typically cast strength? Are they typically of a higher proof?
Yeah, I don't necessarily go for the higher proof, but I try and go for the cask strength. I mean, what makes it not cask strength is that the distiller watered it down to whatever their desired proof level was. And in my personal taste, you lose a lot of the complexity sometimes doing that.
Mm,
And also if somebody wants to add a few drops of water, I mean, that's totally fine. And they definitely should do that if they want, but you should have the option, I think.
mm,
A lot of people don't like that.
yeah. You mentioned this is MGP or the others, or is this the only MGP, or do you have others?
Uh,
And for those less familiar, instead of me just randomly throwing acronyms around, MGP stands for Midwest Grain Products, which apparently is not really terribly that far from where I live. From what people tell me, it's I don't know, maybe less, within an hour's drive probably from where I live in Cincinnati. So yeah,
yeah, so MGP is phenomenal. They make just some of the best whiskey around.
really.
I believe
Wow.
all of our picks so far have been MGP. A nice thing about MGP is
Hmm.
when it comes out of the distillery, it's actually certified kosher, which is really cool.
Oh, that's really
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so all of
From
them
from Rabbi Litvin, right?
from Rabbi Litvin, the bourbon rabbi
So
himself.
So for those less familiar, Rabbi Chaim Litvin is, well, he has this moniker, the Bourbon Rabbi. He's been on a couple of episodes of the Jewish Drinking Show, including a November episode entitled The Bourbon Rabbi. But he also came on in the spring for a pre-Passover show. So for those less familiar, you can feel free to check out those two shows featuring Rabbi Litvin. So yeah, it's definitely a wonderful boon to have it already, kosher supervised, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. So the rum, obviously, that came from a distiller in Chicago, and
Yeah.
then we also did a special bottle. We did was this. Do you know? Did you see this? There was it's still going on. This Buffalo Trace released a kosher series. And right around, I think it was Hanukkah last year. There was an attack on the congregants at the Chabad of the Bluegrass.
Mhm.
And so we felt compelled to do something, and we partnered with Happy Hour Liquor in Kentucky.
Hmm.
An amazing, amazing place. If anybody is in Kentucky, please stop by there. Tell Aaron that Jews and Booze sent you. It is amazing. He just opened an incredible whiskey bar. Happy Hour Liquor, they're amazing, and just ask for Aaron. But
Cool.
we partnered with them to do this. It was a takeoff of the Buffalo Trace kosher. It was Elijah Craig kosher.
Hmm.
So this was cool. We raised money for Chabad of the Bluegrass with that one.
Oh, cool.
So that one and the rum were the only two so far that were not distilled by MGP.
Oh, very neat.
Yeah.
Very neat. All right. So also I just want to point out the finish on that one is I don't know. That is a really cool finish. It's definitely still very flavorful, very spicy. I want to say like a reddishness or a fruitiness to it. It's a really neat, potent finish to that one.
Yeah, I get a little like cloves almost on the finish.
Oh yeah. Next up, we have Baby Yogurt, which is a wheated bourbon that, ooh, this is really cool. A blackberry finish. It's been aged for 4 years and clocks in at 116 proof. So, fine.
Man. Yeah, so this barrel is really cool. This one, wheated bourbon. I don't know if you've heard of like Pappy Van Winkle or Weller, which are obviously the two big names in whiskey. Those are both famous because they're wheated bourbons, which has like a real nice sweetness to them. And so this was a wheated bourbon that was finished in a barrel that previously contained blackberry brandy. Gives it a nice little blackberry sort of subtlety to it. And it was only in the blackberry barrel for only 10 days.
Hmm.
So you're not going to get a lot of that blackberry on the taste. It's really mostly going to be on the nose and a little on the finish too. But it's very subtle, but really nice when you find it.
That's really cool. And so I'm, disclaimer, I'm not a huge wheated bourbon fan. And I mean, I like what it does to the mouthfeel because I'm a big mouthfeel person. So typically smoothing it out. But this one's actually really nice as wheated bourbons go. So actually, I don't even have to make the qualification as wheated bourbons go. It is enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's what I go for. But this one's a cool bottle we did. This was Baby Yogurt there was a huge barrel pick by a different group that went like massive. It was really great, called Baby Yoda, obviously after Star Wars. So we
Yes,
wanted to do our
and
little
anybody
take on it.
watching can see I have a Baby Yoda over here, and I have a Baby Yoda over here. So I have a couple of Baby Yodas just behind me. So I
Yeah.
get the appeal of Baby Yoda.
Right. So we wanted to do something, our own little take on that. And obviously, from, if anybody has seen Spaceballs, they know merchandising. So we did our baby yogurt after that, and I thought
Yeah,
it came out pretty good. We
yeah.
raised money with this one. We raised for the New England Holocaust Memorial,
Oh,
which
very
was
neat.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very neat. So I want to. So how did you connect with these distilleries, or at least MGP? Like, how did you connect to do these barrel picks and to make these available to the group?
Yeah, a lot of them are just flukes, just meeting a lot of different people, getting introduced, networking, that kind of thing. I've been really fortunate to have met Aaron from Happy Hour Liquor, who has really connected with me with a lot of people.
Mhm,
Rabbi Litvin, the bourbon rabbi, has been
mhm,
amazing. I've worked with a retailer out here in Boston, Gordon's Fine Wines. If anybody is in Boston, they're amazing. Please
mm.
stop by there. And so through these different avenues, I've been able to connect to all these different people, and from them connect to other people, and it's really kind of grown from there. A lot of it is just Jewish geography, honestly.
That's really great. And how much do these typically run? The different, they're 750 ml bottles, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've really tried to focus on is only picking very high quality spirits.
How do you do that? Who's tasting them?
You're
I'm
looking
sure
at
it's a
them.
tough job and it's hard to find people to taste them. I get that. But how do you, who's doing the picking?
So I'm involved in every single pick,
Okay.
and on a lot of the picks, I try and bring in other people,
Mm,
especially surrounding a different charity or
mhm.
whatnot. So for the ALS Association, I had actually, if you look at the sticker, it's his face is the bear Jew. It was superimposed, yeah. So so yeah, I work with different people, and uh, ultimately, I want to make sure that anything that we put Jews and Booze name on is something that people are going to be really, really excited about. Because at the end of the day, especially after this pandemic, uh, people's money is really, really hard earned, and I
Mm,
would never want to, ask for people's money for something that wasn't well worth it, and for a good cause. So we've
yeah.
really tried to focus on mostly high end stuff that's unique.
So there's no specific. So you're involved. I imagine, would Rabbi Litvin be involved to some degree as far as the tasting and picking, maybe possibly?
He hasn't been involved yet in tasting and picking, other than
Oh,
the Elijah Craig
oh, okay.
barrel, but we are talking about some things, maybe something for Sukkot. And
Mm,
so, yeah, one of the exciting things about this is that, and I think in bourbon in general, it really kind of brings people together in a way
mhm.
that I've never actually seen otherwise. And
That's
so
great.
it's really cool. I'm excited to work with him and whoever
Mhm.
else wants to work with us.
Right. And he has some labels of his own. I see one even behind you, a
Yeah,
Bourbon
he
Rabbi
actually.
label behind. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, he did a really cool. This is a delicious pick. He not a pick. This is an actual private labeling he did that was phenomenal. So I
Yeah.
think you could still get this at Happy Hour Liquor
Oh, cool.
out there in Kentucky. Yeah.
That's really great. So, and what about the charities? How do you go about selecting the charities? Do you, and are you doing a different charity every single time? And so you'll just have a whole bunch of charities, and so you're not necessarily doubling back. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've tried to sort of spread the love. I've also tried to focus on charities that are smaller, where the max we're going to be able to give on one of these barrels is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500, depending on whatever the
Mhm.
specifics. So I'd rather give that to an organization where that's going to make a big difference, rather than, like, the federation, where it's peanuts to them.
Right. It'll make a bigger
Um,
impact, and they'll notice and appreciate it.
Right, yeah, and so what
Right.
I've done is the people who I've included on the different picks with me, I've for the most part, let them take the lead on picking a charity to donate to, with the stipulation that it can't be anything having anything to do with politics.
Hmm. Aside from, I mean, it's a gray area, but Israel. So, I mean, of course, Israel, like a lot of us have fond, associations with. So you have done some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Benefiting Israel charities.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for me, Israel is not political. I mean, I would never put like Likud on a bottle or something like that. But for me, giving general support for Israel is not something that's political, and I'm
Mhm.
really, really proud. Some of the charities we've been able to give to. I know we didn't get to it yet, but coming up, the Mensch.
You know
Uh,
what? Actually, that is the perfect segue to the
all
bench.
right,
So okay, can I just tell you how much I love the aroma on the bench? This
pretty damn
is
good,
an
huh?
incredible nose. This is a honey finished bourbon aged for also almost 8 years, 7 years, 10 months in, and it's 118 proof. So this is no lightweight. I love
Uh,
that nose. It's also kind of soft. I mean, yes, it's fragrant, but it's kind of soft too.
yeah, this is one of my favorites for sure. I was really excited about this one.
Also, so it, this might come off wrong, but it smells like sweet, delectable, comforting, and almost homey. Like I just want to sit in this aroma. It's
Yeah.
just so comforting.
Yeah.
I, yeah, this may or may not be my favorite of the of these five.
A lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said that.
All right, well here we go. Time.
So what's cool about this one is, and we're going back to Israel, we actually donated the proceeds of this one to the Michael Levin Lone Soldier Foundation.
This is amazing. I'm sorry. Wait,
No,
I have to palate wise, it's more delectableness, sweet, um, not totally smooth. It's got a little heat on it. And the by the way, the finish, the heat just right. Like there's just boozy heat coming up, but the nose, I mean, it's just such a fun experience.
I really like the honey is like super subtle at the end, but stays with it a little bit. I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, it is. That is a very long honey finish. And the spices also, that spice sticks. It's a very long finish on the spice.
Yeah. I think the honey actually almost acts like a thickener, really, because it
Yeah.
has like a nice oily mouthfeel too.
Mm. Okay, this one is a really fun one. All right, so the Michael Levin, and he's from Philadelphia, right?
Michael Levin was from Philly. He was a
Yeah.
lone soldier. I'm sure everybody who has been on Birthright has heard of him. He was a hero and an inspiration, definitely to me and to a lot of people. So I was excited to donate this one to his foundation,
Mm.
and also it was cool because it was a tribute to Julian Edelman, who just as we released it, he had just announced his retirement, and right around that time was when there was a basketball player who yelled out an anti-Semitic slur
Oh,
while
right, on
playing a
the
video
Miami
game.
Heat.
I forget
Uh,
what team. I forget who
yeah,
it
he was on
was,
the yeah.
but Edelman actually called him out, but not in a nasty way. He called him out in a really inspiring, productive, positive way, and
Hmm.
so that's why I wanted to call this one the Mensch after him, because it was just a really Menchy thing to do, and a really good role model, I thought.
I want to take a break from our episode, and although this is the final episode before I take back-to-back breaks, I'm going to be taking a summer break from the Jewish Drinking Show as well as a fall Chagim break from Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, that whole craziness of the Jewish fall holidays. So we will be back in October, but we just because I'm taking a break does not mean there's not more of the Jewish Drinking Show to come. So here is a sneak peek into episode 78 coming early October featuring Mendy Markin. This is part two, basically, of the earlier conversation that I had. We had a pre-pandemic liquor sales episode, and this is the pandemic liquor sales episode. So here we go. Here is a sneak peek.
People were just wanted to make sure that they were going to get their wine for Pesach. Mm-hmm. And what happened also because of COVID is that nobody was going away. Uh-huh. Nobody went to family. Nobody went on programs. Every program got canceled.
Right.
And so we had so many people that were telling me over the phone, so many, I'm not saying one or two. I'm like at least 5 or 6, if there could have been more women that actually said to me, this is my first time making Pesach ever. Or this is my first time making Pesach in 20 years.
They always
Like-
just went away to programs or family. I hope you enjoyed that sneak peek into what will be the very next episode, but not until early October, featuring Mendy Mark. Now back into our episode featuring Josh Mann. So, all right, so those are sneak peeks. And actually, you know, I know we still have another bourbon to go. But what do you have on? So you have this Amar Rye. How many? So you mentioned by the end of 2021 that you plan to have like basically 20 out. So how many do you plan on having for really the rest of 2021? It sounds like more than one per month, right?
Yeah, you know, we're trying to get more out there, and I'm really trying to expand on what we're offering. So up until now, it's really only been the one rum, and other than that, just ryes and bourbons. So I'm excited for what else we're doing. One thing that's really cool that we have coming is a dark pumpernickel rye, which is it is wait till you try it. It is gonna
Oh,
knock your
man.
socks off, seriously.
My taste buds are already salivating. That sounds incredible. For 750 ml, what's the ballpark range pricing wise?
So for all the other picks so far, except for the rum,
Mhm.
because the rum was very young and it's a little different. So all of the bourbon and rye picks so far have been between 90 and 150.
For a
Wow.
750 ml.
Yeah.
So I'm not, by the way, what you just said, the rum was young. I wasn't crazy with thinking that it needed some maturation.
Oh no, by far it's the youngest. So the rum was only 2
Yeah.
years, 1 month old. So that's pretty young. I mean, our oldest one is 14 years, and the youngest one after that was 5, I think. So
Mhm.
so it's definitely young. But I think what's cool about what they're doing, and a lot of other distilleries, like we were talking about MGP before, right?
Yeah.
A lot of brands that when you go to the liquor store and you see like 100 different brands, let's say,
Mhm.
I would say 80% of them are probably distilled by MGP. And then the other, maybe 15% of the others are distilled by like, the other Buffalo Trace and the others.
It's
Uh,
that prevalent.
Oh yeah, MGP
Wow.
has gone bananas. So you may not have heard of them, but trust me, you've drinking MGP whiskey before if you like whiskey.
Wow. You mentioned 14 years. I'm just going to use that as a segue to the Hebrew Hammer.
People contact me every single day about this one. I mean,
Oh
this
my-
one is really special.
Okay. Just on the nose. This is head and shoulders above all the rest. I mean, look,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I love that mensch. That was phenomenal. But this is noticeably different and better.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. This one just sort of I got this one as a total fluke. And this is what really started off this whole barrel picking thing in general. Yeah, it just was just an unbelievable barrel.
So as a kid, I actually liked cough syrups growing up. This has a nose that's reminiscent of, I want to say, cherry cough syrup, maybe.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
get that a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not crazy with that.
No.
aroma.
Yeah.
But I say that in a good way. not as
Oh
in-
yeah. No. Totally. Yeah. I
Oh.
like it too.
That is a really phenomenal aroma. All right, here we go. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and by the way, that cherry cough syrup stays with it the entire way, the entirety of the palate, the finish and beyond. I will say, you mentioned 14 years. It is aged 14 years, and it clocks in at 122 proof. It's a big one, but it's also a little bit more mellow to some degree than the last two that we had. It's big, it's powerful, it's boozy, but not as much in your face boozy as the other ones. At the same time, you can tell there's a certain complexity and bigness to it.
It's funny. Like I know a lot of people will just look at the age, or they'll just look at the proof. And I think that you really have to evaluate each bottle or each barrel on its own, because there's so many different factors, like what time of year it was distilled, where it was stored, what the climate, the seasons were then, where in the rick house, what type of rick house, all these things. Like, I mean, the changes are super subtle, but they make a difference. And that's why if you're only looking for like a happy 23 year, right? it is what it is. There are going to be some good ones, some bad ones, but you're going to be missing out on a lot of really good whiskey. I'll give you a good example. There's that company Barrel. I love them. They're amazing. And they
So I've
put
never
out,
heard of them. So what can, it
that's
sounds like they're
the Bear
barreling
Jew.
MGP groups of MGP's products, right?
They do MGP and other companies as well.
Uh-huh.
This is that they did the Bear Jew.
Okay.
Um, they did a few barrels. They found the owner Joe. He's got an amazing palate, and he found a couple barrels of this 4-year MGP rye. Most groups, most people, they see 4 years on the bottle, they're not interested, especially if it's like, you know, more than 40 or 50 bucks. You know, it's just too young.
Wow.
I'm telling you, this might be the best whiskey I have ever tasted. And you know what? There's no reason I should have had the opportunity. It should have flown off the shelves. But the only reason it didn't is because it said 4 year and people just didn't want to even give it a chance, which more for me.
That's a great find.
From when I found that barrel and today, the whiskey world has changed quite a bit, and the demand for single
I'm sorry, how
barrels.
many years have you been doing this?
Right, I know, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
It's 7 months.
I know. It's wild. It's wild. The
No,
demand
seriously,
for-
how much in the last 7? We're talking like a touch over half a year. How much has the whiskey world changed?
well, as far as previously,
I totally don't know, and I imagine many of the listeners also. So I'm very curious.
right, yeah. So I mean, previously, what was driving a lot of this was people trying to find these like unicorns, like Pappies and Wellers and things like that. They were like on the hunt, and those, you know, those are highly allocated, and they come, you know, few and far between. And by only looking for those, again, you're missing out on a lot of great whiskey. And so a lot of the focus, because of how frustrating that hunt has been, a lot of the focus has now shifted from that to doing barrel picks. Because when you have a barrel pick, what's really cool is that every single barrel is unique. And so you could try even within, you know, you could have 2 barrels that are exactly the same according to the specifications. They sat right next to each other, but the taste profile could be totally different. How has the industry changed? Well, the industry's changed because the demand for these single barrels has exploded.
You're saying in the last 7 months it's exploded, as if the bourbon demand for the last 5 years, 10 years hasn't already shot up so much?
Definitely. Definitely. I'll tell you this. So this is just anecdotally.
When sounds like the pandemic also has helped drive that, right?
Oh, absolutely, definitely.
Really?
You know, people not wanting to go out to the liquor store and being in all these whiskey groups, for sure. But the Hebrew Hammer, when I picked that barrel, I could have gotten 2 other barrels, like sister barrels, along with it. So I could have gotten 3 barrels right then. And I was afraid I couldn't even get rid of the 1 barrel. So I turned them down, and now it's just like a pipe dream to ever have that again. It's just I'm kicking myself, but yeah, that's just anecdotally, just so you see, like the demand is just crazy now. I know a lot of companies are just not, they just stopped their single barrel programs because they're not going to have enough whiskey, you know, for their regular product offerings.
Really?
It's crazy.
Wow.
And what that means really is that, because remember, when a distillery has a 14-year-old whiskey, that means that whiskey sat there for 14 years and they couldn't sell it. They couldn't do anything with it, right? So
What do you mean they couldn't? They decided not to, or they just didn't have the demand?
Well, no, the demand is there, but like if you have a you know, if you have a 6-year whiskey, you could sell it at 6 years and you have the money right then. But if you want to age it for another you know, 8 years, that's 8 years of you not getting that money for it, you know. So you're hoping that it's going to become more valuable then, and that you'll be able to sell it for more. But that time is an investment, you know. And so I think with all this demand right now, fewer distilleries are stashing away barrels to age longer to meet the demand, I think.
So not so many barrels lasting for double-digit years.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think we're not going to see it so much now. I think probably in a few years from now, we're really going to see much younger on average whiskey.
Just because so much demand.
Right.
Right. Wow. Okay. So thinking about the future, so I already asked you about the rest of just 2021, which is, we have less than a half year left when this episode comes out. So that's sort of the very immediate future. You mentioned already Scotch is in addition to this kosher for Passover rum and these bourbons, as well as rye coming out. So any other products you plan on putting out for Jews and Booze? And, I'm just going to keep going with it as far as, you have the stickers, you have glassware. I showed that Glencairn glass. What other plans and projects do you have for Jews and Booze?
Yeah, a few things. Really, really cool stuff. So first of all, one of the things that's another sort of trend in the whiskey industry has been finishing. And so that's like what you said with the honey and the blackberry, is that
yeah.
you're taking the whiskey and then taking it out of its original barrel and then finishing it in a barrel that contains something else previously for however much long. The problem with that, as far as kashrut is concerned, is that there's a lot of controversy as far as the finishing barrel, if that changes the kashrut status of the whiskey.
It's
And
wine, right? There's definitely controversy there.
Yeah, I mean, and
But
regardless,
when I say, by the way, note to listeners, when I say controversy, there are some who say it's fine and some who say it's problematic. So it's not clear cut either way, unless you ask a rabbi who says yes or no either way.
Right. My personal preference is, as far on an organizational level, is to be as inclusive as possible. And so what that means for me is to, as best that I can, try and make barrel picks that would, the kashrut of them would be accepted by as many people as possible.
Which sounds very diplomatic.
It's not, I know it probably, it sounds a lot easier said than done.
And inclusive, not just diplomatic, but also inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun Jewish thing, and I wouldn't want anybody who wants to be a part of this community to feel alienated or anything like that. And so one of the things that I'm really hoping to do is to focus on kosher finishes, and I'm hoping to bring either kosher barrels from wineries in Israel or in the US. But that's really what I'm hoping is the next level for me. Other things that I'm trying to these, I would say these are some long-term goals, but I'd really love to put together a trip to Israel focused on the Israeli alcohol industry.
So would I.
The whiskey
I'm not
industry.
joking, by the way.
Well,
I put it on. I mean, maybe that's a collaboration, but I put it out a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, asking for recommendations. So, all right, I don't know. Stay tuned.
That is a good coincidence. Yeah,
in the post-pandemic era, stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. With this post-pandemic era, there's just so many exciting opportunities, and a lot of them are in person. This trip that I'm suggesting is not a birthright trip. I should
of course not. There is absolutely not. This has nothing to do with. I'm just saying, theoretically, if there were to be such trips, visiting the handful of distilleries, the many breweries, and of course, dozens upon dozens of wineries in Israel would be incredible, and having nothing to do with birthright. And very taste oriented. So there's incredible food in Israel. So there's many opportunities.
With all these amazing things, you have Yerushalmi distillery in Yerushalayim, and you have Golani distillery in the north, and just
milk and honey.
There's just so many cool things going on in Israeli whiskey and Israeli wine, and it's just it's really an amazing time to be involved in the Israeli alcohol industry. And I think that such a trip would be really fun for Americans with a fine taste for these kinds of things, but also it would be great exposure for the Israeli alcohol industry. So one of the things I'm hoping to work on.
Josh, thank you so much. This has been really incredible, really fascinating, really insightful of this Facebook group, Jews and Booze, that you started just 7 months ago, and what it's even literally produced with these various products, and obviously the conversations which sound and people want to get glassware, stickers, even sounds really incredible, and so much more to come, it sounds like. And finally, do you have anything you want to share, promote, or encourage?
Just I want to invite everyone to join the Jews and Booze group on Facebook. You could also find us jewsandbooze.com. and we've had the really amazing opportunity to support some really important charities. And if anybody can help contribute to these charities, outside of Jews and Booze, I always encourage that. And yeah, I just want to invite you to be part of our community. It's been a lot of fun, and there's a lot more fun things coming soon. So stay tuned.
All right. That sounds really incredible, Josh. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing. And finally, L'chaim.
I'm Rabbi Drew. Thank you so much.
L'chaim, it's my pleasure.